Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. It's good to see everybody. This is great. This is a topic that is very dear to my heart, having operated a live performance dome venue for 10 years up on a studio lot in downtown Los Angeles. And it was funny because when we opened that venue, the Vortex Dome, we thought of it more as next gen cinema, but in comes all these CalArt grads and artists wanting access and doing live performances, and it just blew us away. And so we went down that road. This is an awesome lineup who we have here today. Without further delay, I'd like to bring in our first panelist, Lindsey Hall. Lindsey is with Real Ideas. She leads and manages an organization to develop innovative approaches to creative regeneration, restoring heritage spaces and enabling especially young people to set up and run creative, socially entrepreneurial activities. She is involved and very passionate about the Devonport Creative Quarter, which includes a 360 dome, artist studios, and also traditional making facilities. This is, attracting universities, global interest, supporting creatives, and like that. So you can see all of her accolades here, but without further ado, Lindsey, why don't you come on and share with us what you're up to and your perspective on the topic.
Okay, so let's just get this going. Okay, so I hope everybody can see that. Great. So what I wanted to do really was just to give you a little bit of context about where we are and our dome, because our dome isn't a planetarium. And so that's probably quite important in terms of what it means that we can do from a performance point of view. So there we are. It's right in the middle of a community. That's quite important to us because it means that we are not only looking at supporting artists from across the world, which we definitely do, but we're also interested in how do we provide amazing experiences for the people who live around us and within travel to work distance. We built it because we're passionate about creative regeneration. So all of these things that it says on this slide are why we built a dome, and we think it's an amazing immersive experience with which to experiment and innovate. So we are lucky because our dome has a flat floor. It has a screen right down to the floor. We have no fixed seating. We can move it around. We can do all sorts of things. We also have a dome which is part of quite a big heritage building, and I'm going to talk a little bit about where we are simply using the dome and where we're using the dome and some other spaces as well. So the dome is partly a community space. And so what we do with that is all sorts of things, but we do have quite a lot of live events that happen in the dome, which are essentially about creating opportunities for people within the community to come and get involved. So some of it's things like wellness in the dome. You can see these pictures, but some of it is giving children and young people opportunities to make work which uses the dome. So they are making theatrical work, but they're also using the technology as part of what they do. We also have quite a lot which is connected to things like environmental activism. So in fact, next week, we're going to have a piece which is connected to moss, peat, and the importance of that in the environment. And that will be about partly a sort of performative experience, but partly also a sort of exhibition of some work. We do a lot of stuff which is related to learning, training, collaborating with universities and experimentation. So we work a lot with people like the live arts courses at our local universities. And so we have, probably a little bit like Ed said, we have a lot of different students who turn up saying, could we bring a flamenco dancer and a whirling dervish into the dome with some screen content and a spatial audio track and put it all together? And so we try to say yes as much as we possibly can. And generally what we do when we're trying to make those things work is to sort of balance the amount of time that we use the dome for those things, which don't really make money, but are really important as the beginning of generating work, and then things which we do in order to make money and keep the place going. We also, and this is probably quite important, we as a immersive centre, we also do play with things like projection mapping and all of that. So it's a sort of Dome plus, which is probably quite important in the economics of it all. So focus on the topic that we're particularly interested in at the moment. So I suppose there are a number of things that we do. So we do regular Dome sessions. So a lot of that is connected to gigs, DJs, VJs, live performance. And that is a pretty, it's a good market. We've got a good regular program of events which people have got used to. And I think one of the really important things in terms of monetizing all of this is do it often enough. It's very hard to get audiences in to come in regularly if you just do it once. So what we've learned is we need to build our audiences. So, regular Friday night Dome sessions, and you gradually build audiences. Because we have a flat floor, as you can see from some of these pictures, it means it's really easy for us. So we can have bands, we can have, whatever performance we want. We can move our beanbags completely out of the way. So we can have a standing, if it's a sort of VJ, DJ type night, we can have up to about 200 people in the Dome quite safely. That obviously makes a real difference in terms of the amount of income that you can generate from tickets. If it's seated, it's probably more like 100. And that, we'll come on to it, is a bit more of a challenge when it comes to sort of traditional theatrical performance. We do quite a lot of wellness stuff. And that's quite interesting because, again, there's quite a blurring of the line, I would say, between some of the experiences we have, which are involving different types of sound. There's a whole world of different types of sort of sound experiences, which are they are sort of partly performative and they are partly experiential. So people are participating in them. People will pay quite good money, we have found, to be part of those sorts of things. So that is a sort of interesting tranche of what we do. We do have a range of things that we do which are interactive. And this has been really interesting for us, is that sort of notion of how do you get audiences to actually want to practically engage in a way which isn't just sort of watching something. And so one of the ones we've developed, the Moss to a Flame interactive activity, is for children. And this is the idea that children can colour in their own butterfly moth, and then we will scan it in, and we've, through Unreal Engine, created a piece of software which means that your moth comes to life and flies around the Dome. As you can imagine, that is a really popular thing to do, brings in an awful lot of people. And then again, we can sort of mix those types of backdrops with different types of live performance, so storytelling or performances for children. And then we have much more straightforward performance. So on the left of this screen, the two, what I've described as Dome Plus. So this is where we are trying to create we're bringing in performances which can play to audiences of hundreds of people. Can't fit them all in the Dome at the same time. So what we do there is to think about how we collaborate with performance companies to have some of the performance in our sort of main space and then some of it as a Dome experience, and you move the audience backwards and forwards. So a couple of examples. So LYR is a band, but it's a band that involves our poet laureate, so sort of chief poet in the UK, amazing man called Simon Armitage. And so it's a sort of performance. It's not really just a gig. And so what we did there was to have them partly performing in our main space, and then they had also created a sort of Dome experience, which included poetry and performance and moving stuff on the Dome. And then Scary Little Girls, which is, they're a fantastic female-led theatre company. They have a brilliant show, which is called Queenagers, which is all about the menopause, generates audiences, big audiences. And so what we did again was to work with them to say, right, some of your performance is going to happen in the main space. We can have hundreds of people, sell lots of tickets, but we also have some of it as Dome content and sort of performance in the Dome. And I think that sort of both and is quite interesting when you're thinking about the monetizing aspect of this conversation. There it goes. Right. Off we go. So the models we use, the money. And so these are the sorts of models that we use. So sometimes it's a straight commission. We agree a fee and we just take the ticket income. That sort of model becomes quite tricky if you can only have audiences of 100 people at a time. So again, depends what the performance is. If it's a relatively short thing and you can therefore do lots of back-to-back performance over a period of time, might be possible to create enough income out of that to simply go, okay, we can pay the fee and then we can, we take enough ticket income to cover that. Sometimes, but I suppose this model does work better if you're talking about emerging performers, where this is the first chance that somebody's got to actually put something on. And so generally speaking, the fees aren't so high, and therefore we can come to some sort of arrangement which allows us to cover the costs. And in those instances, we tend to work on a model which is saying, provided we can cover the cost, that's okay. We don't necessarily need to make a profit on everything. Good way of getting people to come in at the early stage. What we do find is that it works particularly well if the performers, to some extent, bring an audience with them, or it's part of a regular sequence, like a sort of dome session idea. If it's just literally a one-off sort of floating in the ether, pretty hard often to get enough of an audience. We do quite a lot of ticket splits. So I don't know if this is a UK phrase or one everyone knows, but that's essentially you take the risk jointly. So you simply go, okay, we will split, whatever the ticket income is. And sometimes that's 50-50, sometimes it's 60-40. There are different ways that we work that. Things like the wellness, all the wellness type live events, we tend to do on that sort of basis. Sometimes performers just hire the space and they take the ticket income. And that tends to be, I think, where they're very confident that they've got something. So sometimes some of the bands, some of the music stuff, very confident that they've got an audience and, they'll do it that way. The building plus dome, I've talked about a little bit. That allows us to have a much greater number of tickets. And that is definitely by far and away a more profitable thing. Because essentially just because you can sell more tickets. And those of you who are used to sort of theatrical equations will know that small theatres struggle because it's very difficult to make enough income off a small theatre. But if you can get to an audience of about 300, that certainly in a UK economy tends to be the sort of magic number. We can do that if we link the things together. Sometimes we've done it by adding something to the experience. So if you do, performance plus food, performance plus some other type of experience, then that can be another way of essentially being able to add value to the ticket price. So again, you can make the economics of it work that way. Some of what we do with performance is part of festivals. So periodically we run, I suppose what you'd call a sort of immersive festival. So that's activities in our buildings, but also around. We did one earlier this year where we projection mapped some tower blocks that are right next to us. And it was a big sort of event in the community. We got a grant to do some of that because it was related to historic anniversary. And we had some performance as part of that, which we were able to support via grants, really. And then sometimes we just do some of it because it's an important thing to do and we don't try and monetize it. So that's what I mean by sharing events linked to residencies, emerging makers, that sort of thing. We do see part of our role is to be building opportunities for new makers and for innovation and for experimentation. So, we sort of agree a percentage, if you like, of, the money we make goes back into doing that. I guess the things that we have learned, we have to think about. We have to remember the total cost of what we're doing. So quite often, actually, the sort of rehearsals, the development phase, the tech support that people need is actually often a bit more costly than simply staffing the actual performance event. So really important to take the whole thing, and to therefore think about, if you're talking about a run of performances, okay, you might need to be specific that you need to get to, I don't know, a week or 2 week of performances in order to cover the whole span from, the origination through to performance. The whole thing about reaching audiences. And so either create regular audiences, really important, work with people who can bring their own audiences, super important to do that. That makes a massive amount of difference. And really being very considered about the marketing. Again, we have really learnt how to reach different types of audiences. And so therefore we can create a sort of balanced program which says, yeah, we'll take more risk on this part of the program, less risk on that. And, that can sort of add up. So the more risk, more reward. And then for us, because we are a social enterprise, we're interested in purpose and impact and innovation. So, there is some of it where we go, yeah, you know what, actually, we're probably not going to make any money on this, but it's still a really important thing to do. Off we go again. So really open to some questions. Hope that was a little skip through all of it, and really interested in hearing from people. So there's my email and our website. So yeah, do get in touch.
Awesome, Lindsey. Very impressive what you guys are doing there. And I'm sorry you'll have to leave a little early today. So we're going to go ahead and do some Q&A with you now. So if anybody has questions, please pop them into the Q&A box. The first one here is from Jenny Ogden. Hi, Jenny. She's wondering how you have projections to the ground. Is this a projection system, or is this an LED dome, or are you projecting from above? How does that work?
Yep, it's a projection system. It's 2 projectors that map the whole 360 space. It basically means we've got a 210 degree. If you sort of imagine the 360, we go all the way down to 210. We don't stop at 180. So that means that it's a very immersive experience, but it's run off two projectors on either side.
Do they punch through the screen, or where are they located?
So if you imagine I'm sort of looking at the front of well, it's not really a front, is it? But one side of the dome, we have 2 projectors, one either side, that are sort of about, I suppose they're a bit above the doorways. We've got 2 doorways on either side, and they map so that you get a solid 360 image from the floor all the way up and over.
Nice. And let's see, we have a question from Coco here. Hi, Coco. She's asking how were sales for the Immersive Festival and what kind was it? And she also is asking about if there is a ballet that wants to align in this way with the Dome venue, what has that happened successfully and where? So I guess, have you done ballet, and how did
we've done ballet, but we have done dance. So we, actually, it was one of the most bizarre things we had in there was this mix of flamenco dancing and whirling dervishes, which was, but no, we have had quite a bit of dance in the dome. That works really well. But again, because we don't have fixed seating, we can basically put the audience around the edge of the dome, and therefore you've got a nice big space in the middle, and then you can have performance and dance. And we have also done dance with people wearing, sort of wearables that then interact with the screen. So we've done some quite interesting things where obviously the screen changes as they move, that type of thing. They are, it's really exciting. There would be a limit to the number of dancers that you can physically manage within our dome. Our dome's 15 meters diameter. So yeah, we couldn't have a whole ballet company, but we could certainly have a small number. Yeah, I'd be really interested if anybody's doing that.
Awesome. Well, Coco, there you go. She's also asking about a Immersive festival. Is that a cash flow positive thing, or was that more of a give back?
No.
Give back? Yeah,
that was something. It was because it was the 200th anniversary of this community, so we managed to get a grant to do a festival, and we were really keen to do something which involved the whole community, and so we did this really interesting festival which brought in lots of different immersive elements, and had within it quite a lot of them were co-created with either students or young people, or other types of artists. What was interesting about it was, and so the dome was part of it, but actually using lots of other sort of immersive techniques.
That's great. So you have a space around the dome that is used for activities when you have these combined events. Yeah, that's great.
So we basically got one space, and then we've got another space which has got the dome in it, and then we're quite lucky. We've got a flat roof on the top of the building with the dome, so we can also put projectors on there and projection map buildings. So yeah, it's a cool setup.
Got it. Emil asks, what length of performance generally works for you?
So if it's just in the dome, then I suppose there's sort of a number of different answers to that. If it is just a performance where people are literally in the dome the whole time, we don't generally go over about an hour, so sort of not that different from screening times. If it's a gig and people are much more moving in and out, then probably a couple of hours, and often with different sets. If it is space and dome, building and dome, then yeah, a couple of hours. And you move people backwards and forwards, and you think about how you, I guess, choreograph their experience. And quite a lot of that is, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. If you've got a longer experience, it's easier to charge a bigger ticket price.
Got it. We have a question here from, is it Chi? Sorry if I got that wrong. You mentioned wellness was successful. How many people do you fit in the space for those events? I guess maybe lay down, right? It's less people, right? And what is the range of ticket prices?
So with those, it's usually, I'm trying to think probably about 35, 40 people. It depends. It depends exactly what they're up to. If they're doing sort of yoga and all that sort of thing, they need a bit more space. If they're doing sound baths and they're very flat and still, then you can fit a few more in. It depends how much they're moving around. And the ticket prices are, this is in UK pounds, so I don't know how useful this is, but it's certainly sort of 15, 20 pounds. And I suppose if you think about so like a cinema night out in the UK at the moment is probably about £6. So it's probably about 3 times going to a cinema, for example. That's obviously a sort of higher value experience than, if somebody's coming in for something like a straightforward family dome screening, when we have to position it much more in a sort of cinema market.
Got it. And Michael and Jana, hi guys. They say they love your vision, and they're interested in your contact info. So I don't know if you want to put that in the chat or share it directly.
Very happy to do that. I will put it there. But yeah, no, do get in touch. Be really keen to do that.
And Christian asks, he says, you're doing great work. How much money have you raised through grants? Have you worked with any live orchestras in your dome yet? Ooh. If so, what was it like to mic all the instruments, and how are acoustics for the brass and percussion section?
Okay.
Right. And,
we haven't had whole orchestras. Again, it's not really big enough for a whole orchestra, but we've definitely had quartets quite often. And we've had some interesting sort of quite a lot of stuff where it's been performers who are playing instruments which are then connected to the visuals. So that whole sort of, how one triggers the other. Miking up's fine. We do have a really good sound system. So we've got a 19.1 spatial audio system. So not many people use it, which is a shame. We're really interested in artists who've got ideas about that. We have the ability to use it in a live events mode as well, quite easily. It's very easy for us to switch backwards and forwards.
Right. And he's also asking about rehearsals, sound checks, tech support. Yeah. And then spatial audio for live music. That's a tricky one. I assume you have what, a 5.1 or 7.1 or what is it?
Well, we actually have a 19.1 speaker array, which is, and we have had, I think we've had maybe one person who's tried to use that in a live way. So yeah, we have a technician who is pretty good when it comes to audio. Don't think anybody's actually succeeded in using it live for that much. So normally, normally it's more like 5.1, I think, is what they've generally fed things in. We have got some content that has got the full spatial audio.
Right. Well, the questions keep flooding in. I'm not sure we'll get to them all, but Michael and John are also asking about marketing. Do you do marketing support, or do the performers sometimes also do marketing for themselves? I mean, it's both, right?
Yeah, it's both, and I think that's super important. I mean, if we're back to the monetizing thing, that's super important because we have a very regular we have a marketing function here. We spend a lot of time pushing marketing out for all the stuff we do here. But the most successful are where we can hook in well to particularly performers who've already got an established audience, and then we can make both things come together. Then tickets sell, and it really works.
Right. Christian's asking about real-time reactive visuals or VJing. You mentioned Touch Designer. Certainly has that capability, right?
Yeah. We've played with quite a lot of that, and yeah, really great. It's really interesting. In fact, we had somebody the other day who brought something, and this was actually a collaboration with 4Pi in Cardiff, and they had an artist from I think he was originally from Colombia, but was via sort of Madrid, and he was actually doing something where he'd got a sort of band around his head, and so it was like his brain waves were then creating the sort of impulses on the screen, whilst him and his sort of colleague were playing live at the same time. So we are doing quite a few of those sort of experimental things, and we're really interested in how to push those boundaries. I had somebody turn up today, a really interesting UK artist, and they've been recording underwater spatial audio. Has built some sort of rig to do that, and so we're now discussing with them bringing that here so they can then think about how to create, I suppose, push that live underwater, well, not live, but that sort of recorded real-time underwater spatial audio through our dome, and then they've got some performance ideas that interact with it. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to play out, but we're definitely in conversation to hopefully bring that to the dome next year sometime.
Oh, wow. Maybe put a pool in the dome.
No, that'd be a bit damp. No water. So
I don't know if you've seen Liquid Sound. Mickey Raymond, who does the Dome Fest in Jena, has one of those systems where you float in salt water and the audio is pumped in. Gosh, try to get to a couple more here. Winter asks, are you a dome or a planetarium, essentially? And I would ask, are you also a innovation lab?
Yeah, we're definitely not a planetarium. We do have some space content, mainly because there isn't a planetarium in this part of the world, but we are not a planetarium. We were not built to be a planetarium. So that gives us freedom. We are definitely an innovation lab, and I suppose a sort of facility that is also really about supporting emerging artists, and people who are sort of moving through their journey, but also very much about a community facility, and bringing a whole set of new stuff to people in this part of the world.
Got it. Well, I think we probably should move on. There's a few questions left over in the chat and the Q&A box that you can actually type an answer in if you'd like. But thank you so much, Lindsey, and we're sorry you have to leave early, but we understand. A real pleasure to host you here.
Thank you so much. And yeah, do get in touch. We'd love to hear from whoever, and do come and see us if you're in the UK. So
roll.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. So next up, we have Audri Phillips. Audri, I've known Audri for a number of years. She was our artist in residence for over 10 years at the Vortex Dome. She's an immersive media artist. She specializes in Fulldome shows, music videos, VR, interactive performances. She has a background in dance, actually, a BFA from Carnegie Mellon. And, visual effects artist, worked in the film industry for a while. Her projects include Robot Prayers, Lady of Courage, which is a festival with video mapping, and Fulldome Film Rook, which earned multiple awards. So she's also worked quite a bit with Steve Roach in the Dome and also with producing videos. And she helped us build domes and program domes in the metaverse. So without further ado, Audri, why don't you come on screen and let us know your thoughts on live performances and monetizing them.
Okay, let's see if I can get this to happen. So first of all, I'd like to do a shout out to Ed. He did mention he and Kate McCallum, they had the Vortex Zoom, which I was really honored and privileged to be a resident artist on for many years. And during that time, because I had access to a full dome to use, I could go there and I could put on performances, I could use the dome and things and the whole bit. So the first thing I have,
yeah, go ahead and share your video there. There you go.
Okay, so the first thing I have is ways of getting funding. Okay, one of the big ways of getting funding is hook in with a corporation. See, corporations put on events all the time. Ask them, can I be part of your event? They want to have entertaining people, entertaining things happen, and corporations are doing more and more things in domes. And for example, we did something for Robot Prayers, a Robot Prayers performance with Red Bull, I do believe, sponsored that. Now, also, when I'm talking about Robot Prayers, I want to give a shout out to Noah, who is Noah Lazarus, who is here in this chat, because he was a founder with me of Robot Prayers. Okay, another way, and you can always find different much more about Robot Prayers on www.robotprayers.com. We'll have a lot of different Robot Prayers performances. Another thing that we did for the very first dome show that I ever did many years ago with Vortex Immersion was use GoFundMe, and we actually got people gave money and we used that money. The other way of earning money, if you're an artist like me, is people hire you. They hire you to do short segments, etc., or they hire you to work on a dome piece. The other way is once you have a short segment, you can license it to different groups that want to have licensing. What I'm thinking about doing now is creating a 45-minute dome piece, not just by myself, but with other people all around a theme. So everyone does, for example, a 7 to 8 minute piece, and you hook them all together and you get a dome piece that you can find distribution for. And there are many distribution places, and you can Google them, actually. And one I didn't know about, I just found reefdistribution.com. Then also what I've done before is I've teamed with a musician, mostly Steve Roach, and I've done all kinds of dome things with him. One in particular many years ago, I think it was actually in 2013, that was actually a start of a lot of other dome shows that kind of were inspired by this. And that's always, and since then, Steve and I have done some collaborations together, not necessarily in domes, but in other places where I VJ'd and projected things that I've done. And I've done about 14 or 15 music videos for him over the years. Then, of course, there's also something called Ladies of Courage, which is a festival that I organize, I founded, and we do wall projections from that. And they can be immersive and interactive wall projections. So this was a very early on piece. It was done with it's a dance piece, and I think this one was done in 2013, very early on, or 2014. Stefan went to ballet company. He had come and seen the very first dome piece I had done, My Creations, and he had been so inspired by it. He was actually a dance teacher of mine, that we got funded for it. We got about 50,000. I'll just go through it pretty fast. You can see lots of stuff is happening in here. We had about $50,000 worth of funding for it, which was very helpful and very nice. So I'm just kind of sliding through it. What's also nice when you do a performance in a dome is you can actually build the architecture around that's part of the dance performance. When you build the architecture that's around it, you can also animate the architecture too. You can actually build a whole virtual set right around the performances. And as we've talked about before, you can actually have the dancers wear interactive things so that they're interacting with what is being projected. And Touch Designer, as we have been talking about, is also very good for that. And there are different systems, some of which the performers can wear under their costumes, and they can be hooked up to, for example, Connects, and their movements will be interactive. So this is an early one, Robot Prayers. And like I said, you can find...
I like to think, and the sooner the better.
So you can just see the dance performance, and you can see some of the dance performance was interactive with using Touch Designer in the Vortex Dome once again. I'm just kind of sliding through it fast. Actually, Will Michelson helped out a lot, CutMod helped out a lot with the Touch Designer interactions. There's a whole crew of people. You can find them at robotprayers.com. And once again, Winter, yes, Winter was one of the founders with me of Robot Prayers. And what is this? Okay, this is a piece Steve Roach. Okay, this is probably the second piece we did in the Dome, Steve Roach piece. And there's just a few slides from it. I don't really have a good record of it, but it was a lot of fun. And once again, this one wasn't particularly interactive, but we did have the performer there. Let's see. Just wanted to show a few things today. This is something I'm working on now, actually. It's a performance. I was hired to do some inserts into a performance in front of a screen, and the whole symphony orchestra is going to be playing in front of this. So it's a kind of there's a performance. Unfortunately, it's not in the Dome, but this kind of thing would be lovely to have in the Dome. This is something I'm currently working on. I'm just going through this fast. And obviously, I've used a lot of AI in this too. So. Piece for that, another part of it. I'll probably end up doing about 20 minutes for this symphony orchestra. This is the kind of thing that I would actually love to do in the Dome. Okay, now talking about domes, we'll go to this slide, which is, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of it. Now you can make full dome pieces with AI. And I haven't really done a lot of it. Other people have done more of it than I have. I think there's more. For example, he's part of Vortex Domes, has done a lot of it, or is experimenting a lot with it. But it's kind of fun. So like I said, I'm just beginning to play with it somewhat. Obviously, some character like that is a little bit big. You'd have to make sure that what I'm doing first is I'm making some VR pieces first in single frames for VR, and then I'm taking them into After Effects and converting them into dome pieces. Another thing I'm doing, which I don't have a slide of here, is I find I work a lot with Unreal Engine, and I find you can set up a whole scene in Unreal Engine, do a whole animation in Unreal Engine, and then you can actually go in with your camera into Unreal Engine and just take a shot, a still of what you're doing, and you can take that still into AI and animate from right that still. Ask AI to animate that still, and it will hold true to the still. It will actually be just like the still that you put in there. It's very interesting and animated. It's kind of a nice cheat. What's this? Oh, this is me fooling around once again with some more little AI clips. I just put this in here to help it. But this is the kind of thing that I would love to take up into the dome, which should be totally possible. This is one of the last, I'm working on one of the last videos I did for Steve Roach. And through this fast, just once again. What's nice about this piece is actually a combination using Touch Designer for some auto-reactive things to the music, and also combining it with some AI and some Unreal Engine stuff. So it's kind of a combination of things, which is, I think, what all artists are going to be doing in the future is a whole pipeline of, you know, all the tools that they already know and the new tools that they will be learning and using. So like I said, I invite you to go to ladiesofcourage.com and see all the projections that we did on walls and all the other things that we've done in that festival, robotprayers.com, and, you know, Steve Roach. And I want to thank people like Winter, who was a founding father of Robot Prayers. And also Winter was also the person I did migrations with. And I don't seem to have any of migrations up here, but that was the very first thing that I did with Winter. And so I guess that's going to be the end of my talk here.
Thanks, Audrey. One thing about you is that you're a very talented fine artist. And what's interesting in the domes is you have this crossover between, sort of popular arts and entertainment versus the fine arts. And this is something that you normally, these are verticals, very different business models, different patrons, different, ways of funding things. The ballet that you presented was funded by a patron, right, who donated $50K to make this happen. And of course, the choreographer was quite famous. And that was quite a while ago. We did that one. The other thing that brought up for me in your presentation was the difference between a movie and a live performance. And if you're like performing video or visuals, say to an orchestra, the orchestra is playing at their own tempo, unless
Right.
it's a click track or some way of a sound bed, that they could synchronize their performance to the visuals. But Touch Designer is a very versatile tool for doing live performance, and then being able to, of course, you use Resolume as well, right? So,
Oh, yeah, I use Resolume for VJing a lot.
yeah.
And also, so I'll use a combination of Resolume and Touch Designer sometimes with Connects and make things interactive. I've done that with some local companies here in Los Angeles, dance performances I've done, Maureen Townsend, LA choreographers, etc., where we've done that kind of combination of things, which is very nice.
Yeah, yeah. And Winter, I guess, is asking about the Steve Roach show, the first one you did where you attracted people from all over the world.
Right.
Steve Roach, by the way, has quite a following. So I guess that was a lot of his fans, right, who came in.
Yeah, a lot of his fans came in. It was wonderful. Actually, I've shown Steve Roach's pieces in a downtown Los Angeles gallery, LACTA downtown, which shows it's a digital gallery. It's for digital artists, and it's been around for like 30 years. And the owner, Rex Bruce, is very courageous keeping it open, and you can show your videos there too. And he also does interactive performances, which you can do there too, and some VJ performances there. So
great, Audrey. Stick around for the Q&A at the end, and also the informal chat we're going to do in the separate Zoom room if you want to hang out, and if you'd like to connect with Audrey, make sure you attend that as well.
thanks for patience. Thanks for patience with me, Ed. Thank you.
Make no excuses. Artists aren't always, well, you use a lot of digital tools, but maybe Zoom isn't your thing, But let's jump to our next presenter, Kenji Williams. Also known Kenji for many years. He's founder and creative director of Bella Gaia, a NASA-empowered immersive show exploring Earth from space. He's a composer, director, entrepreneur, and merges art, science, and tech through platforms like IMAX, Fulldome, XR, and holography. His work has earned numerous awards, and Bella Gaia has toured 15 countries with over 300 performances, and has been featured in planetariums worldwide. So you can read his various accolades there. He continues to pioneer transformative experiences that connect audiences to planetary consciousness. Awesome, Kenji. Why don't you come on screen and tell us a little about what you've been up to and your ideas for monetizing live performances in domes.
Yeah, well, shout out to you, Ed, for being a big part of the beginnings of Bella Gaia and actually introducing me to key people. And so, yeah, Bella Gaia started really from an inspired meeting with an astronaut and Mike Fink, who lived on the space station for over a year, and his transformative experience seeing the Earth from space for the very first time. And it was Mike's story that inspired me to think about how could I bring this transformative experience to the rest of us who can't yet go to space. And so this was the genesis of Bella Gaia, Beautiful Earth. And the beginnings were in the planetarium world. I'm going to show some very early videos. This is thanks to pioneers like Dan Nefus performing at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. This was actually our first live audience performance where Dr. Kachun Yu was navigating UniView live while I composed and performed a live soundtrack. And so this was so successful, we decided to keep progressing it and developing it, and which eventually became Bella Gaia, which we have now a 25-minute Fulldome movie that has been licensed to dozens of planetariums around the world. So this was developed again with the Denver Museum of Nature and Science with Dan Nefus and his team. And so concurrently to this, so Bella Gaia is I guess I differ from other presentations and artists here in that I've been singularly focused on the singular brand, which is a core piece of IP and story that has then translated into many different platforms. And so my monetization journey has been around learning and building the bridges as I go. I would say that the most profitable or what has paid the bills has been our live performance for traditional theater. And so this is basically a 90-minute show with an HD screen that is projected on the stage with live musicians and live dancers. And this basically, we've been touring it for 15 years now. And thanks to our agent, Cadenza, they are in the business of booking artists in performing arts centers. And so the way that the arts world works is the artists are basically paid guarantee fee by the venue. And this is negotiated by the agent, but there's basically market ranges and stuff like this. And so I was never really in the business of selling individual tickets and box office, except for different occasions where I would produce the actual event myself. But this, I think, brings up my point in that it was the host's responsibility to pay the artists. Like the artists developed and invested their own time and money into developing the IP and the content, and then the venues were there to pay the artists to bring the show there. And this is specific to the art world. I'm not really talking about entertainment or like big names where it's a really completely different model. And so I mean, Lindsey pointed a little bit about how they raise money, but in general, these are universities, these are science museums, and just simply your local performing arts theater, where they have their own board of directors and they have their own fundraising team, they have patrons, they apply for grants. And I think it's in their calculus that yes, they make money at the box office, but making money is not their objective. They want to support the arts. And so some shows will have a loss and some shows will make money. But the main, I think, stability of the venue is through their own grants, fundraising processes, finding sponsorships and whatnot. But yeah, as an artist, I think Audri showed the perfect list of ways to make money in that there's corporate events, there's booking fees, and then there are doing events yourself and selling tickets yourself. And my passion has really been bringing the perspective of live theater and storytelling into immersive spaces and domes. And the inherent problem I have with domes is that they are not built for live. And for anyone who comes from live theater and performance arts, the lighting of the dancers, for example, is so key in creating the sense of magic and creating that sense of awe. And the thing is, with a dome, you can't have theatrical lighting unless you put up tripods or rigs that then interfere with the visual aspect. And then there's also just the inherent conflict of the eyesight, the focus, the point of attention, where you have the dome that is the main architectural thing in the room. And then you have the stage with the live performers. And so you have to have a director or a content creator that really understands how to direct audience attention properly so that you're not creating a competing visual field between performer. Do I look at the performer? Do I look at the dome? And so that has really been refined with Bella Gaia over the years. But I have come up to the limitations of the dome and the theater worlds, which is why I am designing my own theater that basically creates the theater that doesn't exist that I've always wanted. It's basically like a mini sphere, but it's made from the perspective of a live performer. So there's a proscenium, there's LED visual, so you don't have to deal with shadows or bouncing light on blacks and whatnot, and a dressing room for performers, and downward lighting that creates this magical effect, which I can show some more content of the holograms that I've worked on over 2 artist residencies at the University of Colorado and at Columbia. This could not be done unless you build your own dome theater, where this is basically you have a rear screen and a front scrim creating holograms that are interacting live with performers. And so how do you, this was very, very specific kind of lighting to create this effect. And this just cannot be done in a normal dome. And so I've just hit the walls of the limitations of the technicalities of domes, but also traditional theater. Like I want to do this, but in an immersive dome. And so I have spent years designing a custom design, of which I am trying to raise money and to try to explain and have supporters that understand my vision. So I bring IP to the entertainment world from a perspective of I really love story. I think there's too much eye candy out there that's just meaningless visual stuff that has no story or deeper thought behind it. And people are yearning for story. And I think we can all relate to the idea that in film, you know, you can either make a film that's just all CG graphics or a film with an actual deep story that people can relate to. And so I'm trying to bring this lexicon to this world of new media, which is a bit high on, you know, obsessions of technology. But inherently, I'm about moving the human spirit, moving the human heart, and that comes through storytelling. And technology is just a spice to enhance the story. So I'm not, you know, the greatest person to talk about how to make loads of money because I think we're trying to figure that out. But I am trying to bring this singular piece of IP and brand, Bella Gaia, to higher and higher levels And that is driving the technology and the marketing and whatnot. So it's really an experiment of which I am the guinea pig, and those who collaborate with me as well. So yeah, thank you all for being here, and I'd love to answer questions later on.
Awesome, Kenji. And, I agree with you 100% that there's really two things that could optimize the dome theaters for live performance. One is the tech, as you mentioned. And as a venue designer, I'm with you 100%. You need solutions for lighting. You need solutions for scrims and things like that. And it's totally doable, but only if you're starting from scratch. It's a little hard to retrofit an existing theater, with some of those things. But there is still a lot you can do. And, having toured live performances as well, I can say that having to bring your own lighting into an existing dome, bring your own sound system in for live sound reinforcement, and all the crew that comes with it on your tour is a heavy lift. And so when you have a theater, even the larger domes, 275 seats or so, monetization is an issue, because if you had more seats, one performance can serve 100 people, it can serve 1,500 people. And so if you have a larger venue, it can actually work better.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's why traditional theater has, even the small theaters have 1,000 seats to 2,000 seats. The dome, traditionally, I mean, unless you want to spend $2 billion for the Sphere, you're talking a couple hundred or a little bit more, and so the numbers for domes, it's challenging. And so we have to figure out other ways to create monetization, which I think Lindsey talked about in creating side events and other ways to do that. But yeah, it's a challenge with the simple sizing of domes.
Of course, if you build as large of the Sphere, then your performers are little ants running around on the stage. So anyway,
yeah,
we'll talk more.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring up our final panelist. Thanks, Kenji. Stick around. This is, another awesome producer and theater operator who's ran the Wisdom for quite a few years there, Sean Ahearn. He's CEO of Elevation XR. He's pioneering immersive urban destinations, which he calls Elevation Sky Parks. They have one going up now in Pier 70 in San Francisco. So it's going to be a really cool venue, helping him out with that a bit. And he's done performances with not just the music, but some of the members of the bands like Pink Floyd, Steve Aoki. He's done shows with the music from the Beatles, and delivers content for Google, Intel, Facebook, SpaceX. He's also worked at Coachella, Burning Man, Fortune 500 activations. And he's definitely a domie, but not a planetarian. So what we're talking about here, again, are arts and entertainment domes. So anyway, Sean, why don't you come on screen and fill us in on what you've been up to and your ideas for how artists performers can monetize content in domes.
Sure. Hey, thanks for the introduction, Ed. Good to be here, everybody. It's been a very informative panel thus far, and excited to be participating here. Yeah, I think, what's unique about my approach to dome, well, I may have come in a little bit later than some of the other people. I mean, I was using domes primarily at live events, at festivals. I used to be a festival producer, so we always had, unique structures at these community tribal-based festivals, everything from domes and yurts and teepees and bamboo houses and earth ships and all those cool things. And the dome always stood out to me as something that could be utilized more for live performance and not just the odd yoga class or workshop or kind of DJ dance party late at night, that kind of thing. So I got to thinking, what could be done with these domes? We pop them up for a weekend and we tear them down and we go to another festival and do it again. And I got to thinking over time, my specialty being the live performance and the audience's engagement in live performance. Perhaps we can adapt these geodesic dome structures where they can be more user-friendly for specifically in the live format. So I hooked up with another company that was thinking the same. They were manufacturing and creating the domes. And then we decided to get together and let's put my ideas for live performance with their ideas for manufacturing technology. And we started creating these amazing pop-up domes that could handle live performances. We did everything from festivals like Lightning in a Bottle, Burning Man, many years. Then we did all the trade shows, IAPA, CES, E-Live, and VR this and XR that all over the world. And then we started thinking, hey, I think we're onto something here. We hauled ourselves out to Burning Man probably 4 or 5 times and did amazing live activations at Burning Man. And the response was so strong that it led us to the doors of the producers of the Coachella Festival, major event in the country. And we got backing. The key to this is, how do you monetize all this? You either have to find a rich philanthropist who wants to underwrite your attendance at Burning Man, which we did in the case of the gentleman, the founder of Cirque du Soleil, or you got to get a large event behind you like we did with Coachella, and that was backed by HP and Intel. So the two sources of money originally to drive us was festival events, which typically have budgets for creative endeavors like domes, rich philanthropists, which are always out there and interested in creative, pushing the envelope kind of stuff, or you have to find corporate sponsorship from creative, potentially tech companies. It's usually beer companies, liquor companies, or tech companies are some of the biggest sponsors in the monetization side. So we were fortunate to have HP and Intel behind us. And we did a rather large dome. It was a 1,000-person capacity dome at Coachella for 4 years. They paid us quite nicely. And that sort of led to the fact that it was so popular, even at a major event like Coachella, where you have huge headliners and dozens of stages and things going on. The dome proved to be as popular at Burning Man as it was at Coachella. Long lines to get in. People were very enamored by the dome environment. It was very new to people. This was starting in 2017, I think, 2018. And we would get hundreds, if not thousands, of people waiting in line during a very busy festival where huge bands playing all over the place, and people were willing to wait in line for an hour just to come in and see what would be a 7 to 10 minute film. And we'd turn the house over literally every 30 minutes for 2 weekends straight, and people would wait in line for hours to see just a 7 to 10 minute really cool video backed by a well-known band soundtrack. That's when I got to thinking that there is a way to monetize this. People are willing to take time out from a major festival. They're willing to stand in the sun a long time, wait in line to see our show. That means there's a demand. So after trying to collaborate with various funders, investors, producers, none of whom saw any value in having a full-time year-round dome or dome park, believe it or not, we just decided to do it ourselves. So my partners and I rolled up our shirt sleeves, took our domes, found a empty lot in downtown LA, and we took the initiative and jumped through all the hoops that it takes: permitting, funding, programming, staffing, and we opened up a dome park with the idea of monetization. Could we set up a dome park that's not unlike a cinema complex or an amusement park or any of these hybrid immersive venues that are opening up? We were a little bit ahead of that curve. This was before Immersive Van Gogh, and before Area 15, before the Sphere. And sure enough, as rough and ragtag as it was to do it yourself, we had no problem attracting crowds. The Wisdom Complex was composed of 5 domes and a VIP container ship house. And we were able to generate shows, daytime, we do art shows, exhibits, films, yoga classes, nighttime DJs, large rock concerts, whatever was available to us, a lot of corporate rentals. But between these combination of things, we were driving thousands of people a week to our dome park. Again, that opened in late 2018, early 2019. So driving people, selling tickets, earning money was never easy, but that was not the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is being a pioneer in a new marketplace and a new medium that people don't particularly understand. But 100% for sure, the audience is there, and there are ways to monetize domes and dome content at this stage of the game, so long as you have skilled operations management, financial plan, all those kind of things really come into it now. There's plenty of talent out there. There's enough people who are aware of the format to make monetization not unlike you might do in a traditional venue, movie theater, museum, planetarium. These avenues are all there. And what's unique when you do it in your own custom-built dome park is you can kind of control the flow and the style of programming, and thus the type of monetization angles that you have. For example, we would do everything from traditional 360 dome films to workshops and classes, TEDx talk style things, conferences, summits. We would then do classic rock concerts, I think as Ed alluded to. We did dozens and dozens of concerts with bands that mostly legacy acts, the Pink Floyds, the Grateful Dead, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley, David Bowie. We did adaptations and interpretations of all of those kind of shows. Those are probably one of our most lucrative events as far as ticket price and attendee passion. Not unlike, we kind of preceded the Sphere by a couple years. So we were doing, Grateful Dead and Pink Floyd and what have you in our smaller domes in downtown LA. We only had 500, 600 seats, but we managed to do the Pink Floyd show about 75 times. Average ticket price, $65, $75. Top end VIP stuff, 100 to 150. And we would consistently sell that show out over the course of our operation, from 2018 to 2022. So we proved that there was a model for that. And then lo and behold, the Sphere in Las Vegas opens up with U2 and the Grateful Dead, and they're doing huge numbers, 18,000 tickets a night, several $100s per ticket, millions and millions of dollars in gross revenue, thus affirming that live performances in these 360 spherical dome format are really the wave of the future, I would say. And the thing I might add to that is once you do it, and once artists and creators and producers and audiences, once they see the experience of the 360 immersive live performance, it's really hard to go back. I think the biggest challenge is going to be the over demand, the talent that wants to play. Because once you've seen a Sphere show, once you've attended, once you've done a Wisdom show in 360, it's a little hard to go back to the Fillmore and rocking the Fillmore with a 2D screen and people drinking beer and booze and clapping for you out front. There's that lack of artistic and community integration, which the dome brings out. So a lot of artists state, once you've done the dome, it's really hard to go back to your club tours. So we're really, with that in mind, we think the demand for this type of environment is going to grow exponentially in the months and years ahead. And we're already seeing a huge demand to expand what we did in LA to San Francisco. And then from San Francisco, we have multiple offers in other cities. So there is going to be a monetization route coming up soon. And that's for everyone in the Dome network. That's, creators, programmers, technicians, executive managers, operations staff, publicists, marketing people. This industry is going to be growing fast, and you do have to have a unique understanding of the immersive environment and what makes it so different from a typical live concert, a typical movie, a typical, immersive rectangular building. There's something very unique when you're operating domes and dome parks, and it's really nice to draw from the already existing pool of people who are familiar with it, because it's hard to explain to people what makes it different. Both from the producer's experience and from the audience experience. A lot of people are coming in brand new. Everybody's been to a movie, they've been to a concert, they've been to a trade show. They haven't necessarily been to a dome park or a dome show. And the experience can be as impressive and as overwhelming for the audience as it can often be for the artists, and certainly can be for the producers for various reasons. But I do see a significant path forward as an actual industry. The immersive experience, immersive dome industry will be growing fast. And a lot of that other growth will be in converting existing facilities into immersive style complexes. One of the most obvious one being, we're looking at the death of the shopping mall as we knew it. Most of us as kids or whatever, a shopping mall was kind of your immersive venue of back in the day. It's kind of where you went to go indoors, go inside, see all the games and retail and music, food, whatever might be going on at your local shopping mall. A lot of these were, indoor environments that were sort of separate from or different than the outside world. Those days are sort of done. People are kind of burned out on that typical shopping mall model. So now a lot of real estate developers are approaching us to sort of reimagine, re-envision, or redesign what a shopping mall might be like. And so we currently have offers to adapt our know-how, our domes, our shows to really pull up alongside. You can imagine, you can pull up alongside an existing shopping mall. One thing they do have, which is great, is lots of parking and access to utilities, toilets, power, food, water, etc. So for our purposes, a underutilized shopping mall is an amazing opportunity for an immersive experience venue. So we're now negotiating with just about every big real estate developer in the country about how to reimagine. I'll say shopping malls. It can be other things like that. It can be office buildings. It can be condominium complexes. It can be strip malls. There's really, unfortunately, very poor vision was put into the original creation of those, and I think there was no thought given to creative entertainment and technology developments over the years that has now made repurposing these venues quite accessible to where they really haven't been accessible until now, given the evolution of technology and people's tastes. So I'll pause there for a second. That's kind of the vision where I think some of the industry may be definitely headed. And I travel the world looking at opportunities, and these opportunities exist not only in North America, but basically every continent of the world has kind of followed a similar path of evolution towards, shopping malls and movie cinemas and things that are now starting to show how dated they are. So it's kind of a global phenomena, which I think is exciting. What I will do now, I'll kind of put a pin in that, general overview and talk specifically about what we're doing, what we did in LA and what we're doing in San Francisco, if you will. And just for a little bit of context, at Wisdom Los Angeles, which was up and running for 4 years, I produced about 250 shows by my latest count. And again, those run the gamut from 10-piece rock bands to solo artists performing with piano in kind of a silent disco mode with people with headsets on wandering around the park while a guy would play solo piano in a dome. So it can be a 10-piece Pink Floyd extravaganza, or it can be a solo artist performing using various elements of visual and audio technology. And we did all points in between: big DJs, rock stars. We even had Madonna came down one day to do a photo shoot at Wisdom LA, which was kind of funny. You get 15-minute notice that Madonna's on the way. So we definitely caught the attention of a lot of the industry. With the success of that, I decided that LA ran its course. It was time to move on, and due to leasing and permits and just shifts in political administrations and all that, it was a good time to move and relocate. And I heard about an amazing opportunity with a huge real estate developer called Brookfield Properties, was developing a 40-acre site on the waterfront in San Francisco. They were doing it sort of old world style, shopping malls, condos, live-work lofts, all this kind of stuff for which there was no market in the last 5 years. There's been no market to develop the kind of thing. I heard that their project stalled out during COVID and they had pulled the plug on the whole thing, which meant that there was dozens of acres of undeveloped real estate on the waterfront that needed something to activate until the company and the city can figure out what to do with the land. I saw opportunity and chaos there, if you will. and approach them about the idea of a short-term, midterm, I'll say, dome park that could be put on their land until they figured out what to do with it. That's the beauty of what we do in the dome format. I specialize in mobility. I'm not necessarily building permanent long-term venues, although I think there's a great market for that. My company's specialty is in short and midterm activations where business parties, developers don't quite know what they want to do. They don't want to commit the 50 or 100 million to a permanent structure, but they're open to doing things that are mobile and flexible and can bring in immediate revenue. So with that in mind, we worked out a deal with Brookfield, and we're launching Elevation Sky Park in San Francisco. That will be a combination of 3 domes, a tent, and a pyramid structure. The domes will range from just under 1,000 standing capacity in the large dome, 400 or 500 in the medium dome, 100 or 200 in the smaller dome. And each dome will kind of have a focus. The larger dome will be primarily live concerts, bigger events. The medium dome will be like an experimental space. We'll be doing working with a local vaudeville troupe. We'll be doing trussing, rigging, experimenting with things like Kenji was alluding to. We'll be experimenting with different ways of performing theatrical stuff in the medium. So imagine like a Cirque du Soleil show adapted for dome. That's kind of the vision. We'll be experimenting with audio, tactile floors, maybe hybrids of LED and traditional projection mapping screening. And then our smaller space will be like our film dome. We'll try to recreate a movie theater environment for 360 film. It'll have a little more fixed seating. It'll be a little more comfortable to people, adults, and who are used to a more comfortable environment. And we'll focus on all the great stuff that's emerging in the 360 full dome film world. Then we'll have a reception center where people can come in, check in, have food, drinks, hang out while they're deciding which show or which event they may want to attend. And another form of monetization is we have a parking lot with 175 parking spaces, which in San Francisco is a rarity. And we'll be controlling that parking lot, not just for the parking and ticketing revenue that can yield, but also we can shut down the lot and do large scale full-on festivals on the waterfront, which is a big market in San Francisco. So as far as monetization goes, we've thought about not only the day-to-day stuff of selling tickets, but what special and unique activations can you do throughout the year. And that's why it was so attractive to lease this relatively large space. We're talking 150,000 square feet. Of about 1/3 of that is dedicated to domes and dome park. The other 2/3 is for parking and special activations, festivals, trade shows, etc. So I think we kind of covered the bases there on what the opportunities are, how monetization can go. Really, comes down to private rentals are also a big thing. A lot of the people on this talk have alluded to how do you fund things and how do you work with outside parties. One cool thing about having your own venue that you can control, unlike a planetarium, since we control it, we can also rent it, we can also rebrand it, and we can solicit outside parties who want to bring their vision or their creative stuff to our park. We also retain food and beverage sales, merchandise, advertising, sponsorship. So I think we've kind of covered the whole bases. We've got 7 or 8 revenue streams that can help us monetize what we're doing there. I think that's the basic parts of it. Ed, anything else you'd like me to add? I know it's kind of unique in that I'm actually building these environments. Anything else you think is useful to touch on there?
Sure. Well, Sean, what goes through my mind is, you had bands who come in with lots of, kit, performers, some of them had to load in from a truck, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a 90-foot diameter, 27-meter venue that most of your live performances were in, right?
Right.
You could accommodate how many standing?
In a 90?
Yeah.
In 90, you can sneak 700 in if you really want to, especially if it's a DJ show where you got a little more space. You can do about 700. Live music band, 600 with a hybrid of seating, standing, people on the floor. That's why we bumped it up a little bit in San Francisco. We're going to have closer to a 100-foot dome, be a 98-foot. That extra, as in dome world, that extra 8, 10 feet gives you lots of extra space. It's funny, you can go up. That's why we'll be up just under 1,000 people in San Francisco if all goes to plan. By the way, Ed's helping us navigate that whole situation in San Francisco. But yeah, we want to be around 900 standing, 600 seated in San Francisco. And that extra 10% allows you to be a little closer in the monetization mix thing where you can, I don't want to say compete, but you can put something out into the marketplace that is similar to the larger venue you may have, larger club venue you might have in your town. Thus, you can get talent to come in and perform at reasonable fees because you can meet some of their financial requirements. So having that extra 10% is a nice margin, allows you to bring in slightly bigger, slightly better programming with a little bit better hard ticket draw, if you will.
Right. And you're charging what, $50, $60 a head?
50, 60 low end. Yeah, that's for your basic GA seat. That may be a standing spot or a folding chair in the back. And then we charge about 125 to 150 for the VIP tickets, which is funny. In this crazy world we live in where economics and political disarray, people still love their high-end VIP experience. And those will oftentimes sell out faster than the GA tickets. And we're always amazed, like, God, those VIP sofa seats, in the middle front, those are a premium ticket. And I don't think I think some people would pay anything because they just love these bands. They would pay $500 if it was $500. You can see what the Sphere can get away with $900, $700 tickets at the Sphere. It's not apples to apples comparison, but it does show the passion for people for live music. They will pay. And yeah.
But what if you had a smaller venue to work with, though?
Yeah.
Also had what, a 70-foot and
70-foot, fine. I think a 70-foot is about as small as relatively large dome. Like we did a South by Southwest festival a couple years ago, big event, and the biggest dome we could get for that was a 70-foot dome. And we had these amazing demands on us for talent. And of course, at a place like South by Southwest, there's a band falling out of every van. There's talent everywhere. Everybody wanted to play. So we figured out a way to rig a stage and have the venue set up where we could get, a dozen rock bands on there throughout the week, and we could cram 400 or 500 people in there. And it was definitely a sweaty, hot, elbow to elbow, Studio 54 experience. But it worked. We were getting 400 or 500 people a night, and a band, and a stage, and a good PA projection system in a 70-foot dome.
Right. And I think a lot of the planetarium's existing dome, scenario, you have this challenge with fixed seating. So the way you're able to get so many people into the domes is like Lindsey presented, a level floor.
Yeah.
Right. I think, one of the challenges with the live band who has a lot of expenses, they might be coming into town and putting up people in hotels even.
Absolutely. Always an issue. Travel agency, dome travel agency. Yep.
Right. So what you're doing and the way you're producing might actually only work in a larger dome, or unless you have a big sponsor, which happens, right?
Yeah, more and more so. We're in AI Central up in San Francisco, Tech AI Central. We're hoping some of these companies that haven't found a way to brand themselves uniquely and stand out from the crowd may see that sponsoring a dome park and helping us on the innovation side, working with tech and AI and all this might be some nice synergies with some of the evolving tech audience in the Bay Area.
Right on. Well, we're running short on time now.
Sure.
Let's bring the other panelists on. Kenji, Audri, Lindsey had to run, but you guys, any initial comments, on what you've heard here? What are your guys' thoughts overall on the future of this medium? How it's been, how people are using it. I know, Kenji, you're wanting to build your own venues. Sean is doing that indeed. Maybe not quite as elaborate as you would like, Kenji.
We're going to try. We know the Kenji factor. It's a very good bar to aim for. So Kenji and I have worked together, closely over the years, trying to figure out exactly how to do this. So Kenji's parameters are something to aspire towards. The key is, can you do it in a temporary environment versus a permanent environment? That's kind of the key in our perspective. Yeah.
Right. And then Audri, I mean, most of your shows have been smaller, not with too large of a band or anything, right?
Yeah.
So Good for smaller venues.
They've been smaller. And I just want to say that I think that domes present an amazing opportunity for artists to work in. I come to my dome shows basically as an artist, and I love teaming up and collaborating with other artists and also musicians. For example, Winter Noah did the music for Migrations and Robot Prayers, and Steve Roaches did the music for his. And I've teamed up with other musical people like Michael and Jana for music videos that they've done. There's an amazing array of technology now that can be done in domes. Anything ranging from Touch Designer, Unreal Engine, Notch. I've used them all, and they're wonderful. And just to do interactive performances, virtual interactive performances with people, immersive media is very powerful and very wonderful. And I just think it's a marvelous opportunity for artists to get into domes. And also the fact that you can make a piece in VR for VR headsets, a VR piece, and transfer it into a dome piece is also a wonderful way of working.
One thing that comes out for me in these discussions is, a lot of the extra stuff you're talking about, the live interactive and all, a lot of that is one-off. You got to come in with a kit. I know you're using Kinect and RealSense cameras and different sort of tracking devices. And could you see, Audri, that being a standard kit and like these theaters that Sean and Kenji are working on? Is there like a standard fit out that might be a permanent, part of the CapEx when you build the dome is your one chance to install, tech that maybe some of that tech could be permanently installed in these theaters.
Yes, and I think that's a wonderful thing to say. And Vortex did have that. You had a Touch Designer set up in Vortex when it was there as well. And we could do Resolume, we could do Touch Designer, we could set up Connects. That was marvelous. And if domes were built with these things in them, with the possibilities of doing Touch Designers, having these interactive devices, mocap as well as Connects, etc., and ways of hooking up any kind of thing that an artist wants to bring in would be wonderful.
Yeah, Audri, we will have all that's being planned out at Elevation Sky Park, and so yeah, exactly, because we realized how much we kind of did it, reverse engineered it in LA. We just got the domes up and prayed. Now
Right.
we've seen what works and what artists need, and now
Right.
we're taking those steps. It's what a luxury. I've had maybe too much time. I've had almost a year to plan ahead what we want to have in San Francisco, whereas we had about a week at Wisdom LA. We didn't even know if we were going to open. We just winged a prayer it and then added things later, the obvious things. So it's really great to refresh, listening to this panel kind of refresh my mind of some of the key things we want to have in place prior to opening. Makes it a heck of a lot easier for both the producers and the artists.
No,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
that's
Ed,
wonderful.
this is something that you have been passionate about is standardization.
Yeah, right.
Which is a problem for artists in that every dome is different. Well, even, as we all know, making a dome film, distributing it, there's issues with standardization there. But Ed, yeah, maybe you can say something about the need for standardization.
It's true. And, IMAX came into the dome biz, if you will, with their OmniMax system. And every theater was built to spec. Some are a little larger or smaller, but generally the same sort of a footprint, the same dome tilt, the same projection geometry, and it really facilitated the giant screen film industry to be able to mass distribute out to dozens and even hundreds of theaters. So, until that happens, the same with digital cinema, where you had I think they were the studios were trying to distribute these films, and they had like 180 different digital formats they had to print to, and they're like, this is ridiculous. So each studio put in $1 million, and they created the Digital Cinemas Initiative, which standardized digital cinema format. So, I think that happens when industry starts busting at the seams and feels the pain. But actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. I have been working with a group called Impi, This is the guys who started MPEG, Motion Picture Experts Group. I've been working with MPI now that the same guys created. It's called Motion Pictures Powered by AI. And we have a standards effort. It's called XRV, XR Venues. And these are standards for having AI facilitate live performances in both a dome or immersive theater space and the metaverse. And bringing those two worlds together, now you have this potential. If you a small venue, 100 seats, say, you could have whoever, Madonna, come in, right, and perform. Maybe it's $3,000 a ticket if you want to be there in person. You could have 1 million people coming to the show with headsets or on their mobile phone or console virtually. So, I think that's the future for many of these venues that want to, monetize. Because, having just 100 seats in a dome and then trying to bring in a bigger act, there needs to be either a very high ticket price or a sponsor or a patron or whatever like that, right?
Yeah, you talked about the shows being one-offs. They can be a one-off, but also your background visuals you can take and just has a baked-in thing that you can send out to festivals or do whatever you want to. So I think an artist just has to carefully plan and try to see how many formats they need to do their artwork in, how to get the most out of whatever they do. For example, some of the even migrations, which was first done with live performances, became something that was made into a baked down thing that you could send out to festivals. Same with robot prayers and other things I've done.
Yeah, same with Mesmerica. We performed over 100 shows live with James Hood. And
right, exactly.
It didn't make a lot of money, and we took it down to San Diego. But of course, we had to put up everyone in hotels, so it still was like, it's not high performance. And we ended up baking it into pixels and distributing it as a film. And James could only be in one venue in a given night, whereas now that it's a film, we can run in 60 venues in the same night. So. The live and I do think there's something to be said for a live performance with live performers that get baked into pixels. In other words, for the smaller venues, in other words, you don't have to have everyone there live. Maybe you have one or two performers live singing or dancing or whatever, a small troupe, but you can start baking some of the some of the actual performers into pixels rather than having such a big dance troupe or whatever like that.
Yeah, and that brings up another point that when these new domes are being built, having a good stage setup is really important so that you can have performers there. And I'm not sure if all the domes that are being planned are thinking of that, are thinking of how important a stage setup is also for live performance.
Yeah, the short answer is yes. I mean, a lot of thought goes into it because you're so right. You can do it right or you can do it wrong. If you have time, you can do it right. And one advantage we have right now, and also working with Ed and his team, is that we can plan these things out. So that's good. But yeah, we've thought of all those things, and it's really, really important. Also, hospitality and amenities for the artists. Sometimes the artists get forgotten because some of these planetariums and other, not necessarily artist friendly. And we sometimes forget that performers are performers, and you want them just to show up and step out of their car into the street and onto the stage. That doesn't necessarily work. So one thing we were able to do this time around is plan for artists and producers amenities too, because that's part of the show. You get an artist coming on in a bad mood because they stepped in a bunch of mud or tripped on their way to the stage. It's not a good thing. So we're planning a very robust artist and producers hospitality zone so that people can be in the right mood, right attitude, and they can have the facilities they need to take the stage professionally and do their thing. So that's another part too. Domes can be awkward. A lot of them are out at festivals or trade shows, and there's no real amenities for any of the performers. So we've factored that in this time around as well.
Yeah,
no, that's wonderful. And I'm sure you've also factored in amazing sound systems too.
Yes, sound is key. Domes are tricky, as you know. You can have one dome can sound really good and one dome can sound really crappy. And it's hard to say. Some of them just weren't built right, and they may look similar, but they can sound and perform way differently. So standardization, I think, as Kenji was referring to, is also cool. We want the artists to know when they come in, it's going to sound good, if not great. And domes can sound great. Like I said, even in LA, in a rough environment, we were doing, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, beginning to end. You could hear a pin drop and standing ovations at all the key moments that people know the sound. They know every crack, popple, snap in a Pink Floyd record. And we could put the shows on at a very quality level, and it'll even be better now that we've learned and know what we're doing.
That's great. Well, hopefully we do get more venues, either retrofitting for live performance and or building from the ground up. Talk to Kenji, talk to myself, talk to Sean if you want ideas for building your own live venue. Be happy to help you out. Hey guys, I think we can maybe wind it down here. There were a couple of lingering questions. Oh yeah, Barin asked Audrey, what program do you use to animate stills in AI?
Oh, I use so many programs. I keep going back and forth, and new ones keep coming up. I love, of course, everyone started with Midjourney. Midjourney is really good, especially now that the movies can be extended in Midjourney. The one thing about extending things is they only do 5-second clips. So you can't get all the action that you want in a 5-second clip, even if you extend it. And then I've used VO3 and VO2, and then I've used, I love Kling a lot. Kling seems to pay a lot of attention to the prompt and what you put in there, more than some other programs do. So there's just Runway, of course, is good. Galaxy AI is good. Kriya is good. They're all good, and they're starting to have platforms where they offer all of them. And you can go to a platform like Galaxy AI or Kriya, where they offer more than one, and you get to choose the one that you want to use. And I find that's very useful. But it does take a lot of experimentation to find out which particular programs are going to do best what you want them to do.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Hey guys, Ryan, are we going to do the lounge after panel lounge? I think that's something we're going to do. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. Stick around and jump into the lounge. This is where you can a separate Zoom link that Ryan's going to post. And, we can jump in there and chat more, get to know people. If you have lingering questions. By the way, this video will be posted on the Domefest West YouTube channel. So if you missed, a couple people had bad connection or whatever, or couldn't make it, feel free to check it out later. This really awesome panel, guys, rock stars, one and all. So thanks for jumping in, and let's wind this down. Ryan, take us out and into the next Zoom lounge.
Yes. Well, real quick, right before we jump into the next Zoom lounge, which the link is in the chat, and that will be opening momentarily. But I would love to also promote our next Fulldome Forum taking place on, I'm trying to bring up the graphic right now, but taking place on December 11th. And we are going to be talking about lasers and how laser shows in the United States are having a revival moment, some really cool programming, some Stranger Things laser shows, some K-pop Demon Hunter laser shows, just tons of cool things, bringing new audiences into planetariums. So come join on December 11th for that program with Jay Heck, Erica Manning, Kayla Wagman, and Glenn Smith. And yeah, now I think we will go ahead and wrap this up. Everyone that does want to join us, please save right now the link that is in the chat, and we will see you over there momentarily. Thank you again for joining us. We hope everyone has a wonderful day. Take care.